Hi, everybody. My name is Nathan Churches. I'm from Holdfast Aquaculture. We're one of the newest companies in Humboldt, and in fact, technically, we are not quite in the water here, but we do have a lease. And so this is, as much as anything else, just an introduction to who we are and some of the projects that we do. I'm also the aquaculture faculty lead at Santa Monica College, and I'm going to add another comma here and add workforce development and education to the end of this. I wasn't going to, but before I started, I had a chat with a colleague here, and so I want to just touch on that briefly. So let's see here. Holdfast Aquaculture, we were founded in 2018. Me and a couple of my colleagues rented out this tank. Let's see right here. It was exactly 2 feet by 3 feet in the back of a marine lab. And we have since grown to this 6,000 square foot hatchery in Los Angeles. We started as research and development because both myself and a couple of my colleagues were academics by nature. I'm a population geneticist by training. And so we started tackling some scientific questions at first and moved into commercial production starting in around 2021. Last year was our most successful year yet. We supplied 75% of the mussel seed to California aquaculturists. That resulted in about 75 tons of sustainable shellfish grown in the state, and a lot of that traveled less than 400 miles total from hatchery to farm to dinner plate, and so we're really proud of that. And then in 2023, we acquired a Humboldt Bay multi-trophic aquaculture lease, and you've actually already seen photos of it. We're co-managing this with Tori and Leslie. And so there's a little bit of background here that I don't think Tori touched on, so I don't think I'm being redundant. This site was developed by Greenwave in collaboration with colleagues at Cal Poly Humboldt, Dr. Cuevas Uribe, if anybody knows him. And their whole goal was to eventually transfer this site over to industry. So that's where Sunken Seaweed had been operating for the last few years. And I'm not sure if you can see it on this image, but you can actually see our farm sort of already in the water here on this satellite image. And so we were lucky enough to obtain that lease. And we are currently co-managing that site with Sunken Seaweed. And again, you can see some satellite images here. We're out in the Samoa Channel, pretty proximal to Hog Island, although we don't have those really cool drone shots. I gotta get some of those. So what we plan to do here are some upland improvements directly proximal to what's called the Red Tower Dock or the Red Tank Dock. I can never decide which one I want to call it or what it is. But we want to essentially put some small-scale hatchery equipment there and then generate a working dock with flepsies and floating platforms in proximity to that in-water site. And we're here because we want to produce seed and brood stock. We're not actually producing food from our site, but as Justin just eloquently described, this is one of the best places, in fact, one of the only logical places in the state to stage a breeding program primarily because of the low disease risk here. And so that's why we're interested in working here, because it opens up the entire West Coast, including the Mexican peninsula, Baja oyster companies to us. But what's really cool is that we have an opportunity to do integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. And this is one of the first sites that will be permitted for multi-trophic use. And so IMTA, you can just think of this as the equivalent of polycultural use of the ocean. And so you can see some cool images here of Tori diving on USA Today. You can go Google his appearance there. But we're wondering, if Tori's and Sunken seaweeds are grown next to our oysters, will we get better growth of either product, better nutrient cycling, increased carbon uptake? There are a lot of open questions, especially in high flow marine systems, as to whether or not IMTA is going to be beneficial, but we think it will be. So that's really exciting, and we're on the very last permitting stages. We hope to be in the water in the next literally weeks, if not sooner. And by the way, the lines are already permitted. We're waiting on weather windows, so those are good to go. It's just the dock improvements that we're interested in developing. So I'm going to transition a little bit into what we're interested in terms of conservation. So Southern California has been deemed an aquaculture opportunity area. But in reality, all regions in California, almost every port, is really interested in expanding aquaculture, and that includes this port. This is a good thing, in my opinion, because we have a $17 billion seafood annual deficit, which is insane to me. We need more seafood here in our state in general. But in my opinion, we should be farming the locals. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly touch on a couple of products that we're working on or projects. So one of the locals is the California mussel. The California mussel is not currently an aquaculture product because nobody before our work had been able to close its life cycle, to our knowledge. And so we were able to get some grant funding because we were able to effectively close the life cycle and produce it in, the thousands up to the juvenile stage. And now we're working on doing commercial scale settlement with farmers down in Santa Barbara. And if this product is viable for commercial scale production, it could be farmed from Alaska down to Baja and would be great, not only because we want to make money off of it, right? We're a company, but also because it will further our understanding, our scientific understanding of the species, and potentially have conservation implications. So here's a historic California mussel bed, and when I show these slides in Southern California, people go, oh my God, I can't believe that's what it used to look like. Up here, you're a little bit more familiar probably with mussel beds that look like this, but this is a hard thing to find in Southern California now, and it's because the California mussel is experiencing declines. And so there may be some natural recruitment benefits that you get from farming these things in proximal locations to damaged sites or impacted sites, but you also may be able to do things like seed certain areas. So for example, the USGS approached us and asked us to consider this project. This is still in the development phases, but these are the kinds of things you can do. You can go into places like San Francisco Bay, take these derelict pilings, which are really toxic to remove. They release all sorts of legacy toxins when you pull them out. And instead of doing that, maybe make them into living pilings where you seed them with California mussels, and this provides ecosystem services and also potentially food for migrating birds, which are heavily impacted by human activities at this point in San Francisco Bay. Another project, this one is a little less applicable to Humboldt because the Pismo clam's native range stops right around Pismo Beach, a little further north than that. But again, just goes towards the type of projects that Holdfast is interested in developing. It used to be that you couldn't, in areas of its native range, walk a single footstep without probably stepping on a Pismo clam in its native range. But at this point, it is almost completely gone. Like you will be lucky on a clam dig to find a Pismo clam at the eponymous Pismo Beach. And again, we were able to close the life cycle of the Pismo clam, and we received a sea grant funding opportunity to do, again, commercial scale aquaculture, both for an aquaculture product, but also potentially for reseeding purposes down the line. Okay, and I know I'm running short, so I'm going to also say that in terms of social justice, I think there's a huge opportunity here. I could spend a whole lecture just talking about this particular topic, but you can export sustainable aquaculture practices to communities that are impacted by all sorts of intersectional issues. But for example, I went to Nicaragua and helped this community develop a rock oyster operation. One project that we're really excited about that I always love to plug is the South Los Angeles Seafood Hub. This is spearheaded by this group called Community Services Unlimited, who has this facility called the Village Marketplace, which is a sort of pay-what-you-can grocery store. And so we're working with social scientists from USC to understand this community's perception of low-trophic sustainable seafood, both before and after things like cooking demos and barbecues and videos. And there are some people in the room here, including Sunken Seaweed and Hog Island, who've been participants. And we're really interested, obviously, to open this marketplace, but also it really goes towards making sure everybody has the opportunity to, eat seafood. I don't want to develop the next $8 oyster. I want to make sure everybody has access to this food. And the last thing I'll say about this is, crucially, this is driven by the people in this community. We're happy collaborators, but this has to be driven by the people at Community Services Unlimited, which it is. And I told you I was going to add one thing. I also, if I just change hats for a second, I'm the aquaculture faculty lead at Santa Monica College, and we just launched this semester our first aquaculture training certificate program in, well, the first one that's been newly developed in California in forever. That's a whole other lecture as well. But it's going to be 5 total courses, and this is exportable to systems up here. And I'm actually working with Jasmine and Ingles up at College of the Redwoods to have some sort of materials transfer. This is co-developed with Heal the Bay, which is a nonprofit in Los Angeles. And so this is exportable to community colleges to both democratize access to the training that you need and also to develop the workforce. So that's all that I have time for. Thank you guys so much.